Welcome to another episode of Dynamics Compass, where we interview the experts so you don't have to figure it out the hard way. Today I've got Kristen Hossman, who started her career as an accountant, spent 8 years as an end user before crossing over to the partner side, and that background shapes how she approaches implementations because she's been the person on the receiving end of a go live, not just the one delivering it.
hmm
Today, she's the founder of Mount Evans Consulting, a Microsoft MVP for business applications, and has built a reputation in the space for what she calls rescues, taking over BC projects that have gone sideways with other partners. With a background that spans both sides of the implementation table, she's got strong opinions on what separates a good partner from a bad one, and why your GP partner might not be the right choice for your BC journey. I'm really looking forward to this talk, Kristen. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Rory, for having me.
Yeah. Um, I know a lot of people know you, so a lot of people, and you told me as well, you wear your heart on your sleeve, so a lot of people know things about you already. But I always start with the question, if you could share something with the audience that not a lot of people know about you.
Ooh, I'm digging deep here. If you know me, you know that I love snowboarding. I love jeeping. But
Love that.
one thing a lot of people don't know about me is that when I was an adolescent, I used to do figure skating. And whenever it's brought up in conversation, I always pull up this photo that I have of me. I was maybe like, I don't know, 9 or 10 years old.
Yeah.
And I was doing a group routine, and we were all dressed up as yellow chickens. So I'll have to pull up I'm gonna pull up that photo, Rory, and if you can just insert it in the video if you want to, or
Yeah.
we'll let people see that. But yeah, I was a figure skater for a long time when I was younger, and I also had a horse. I had a horse that I would show as well, so I have a couple ribbons from that.
That's very impressive.
Mhm.
Um, Are there any videos where you're doing like pirouettes in the air as a chicken?
I don't think so. I think there probably are videos somewhere. Back then it was like VHS videos. So
Of
you'd have
course.
to have, the right VHS player, right? Um,
Yes.
I bet there's some. I haven't seen them though, if there are.
Yeah. That's cool. That's a funny story. I would love to see some footage or a photo.
The
Uh,
photo's hilarious.
thank you for sharing that.
hmm
Um, all right, let's dive in. Well, first a bit about your background. You started your career as an end user accountant before moving into consulting. How, in your opinion, how does that shape your approach for to implementations?
Oh, well, I think it gives me a leg up compared to a lot of my competitors. I've done everything from accounts payable to accounting and bank reconciliations and fixed assets, all of that as an end user. I started my career with Dynamics GP.
Oh, yeah.
And then I always tell people it's like I got kind of bored of accounting. Like I knew everything that I could know about it. So then I went into consulting, missed accounting, went back to accounting, and
That's ironic.
yeah, and here we are. I mean, I have the MEC brand, and then I also have another company that does bookkeeping, so I still get to do the accounting.
Yeah.
Um, but one thing that I think it really helps because I've been there. I've been in the shoes of the end users. I can speak, their language when it comes to accounting. Um, I blog a lot, and I probably blog in a different tone than maybe a lot of other people blog because I'm blogging as if I'm writing that procedural documentation, like
Yeah.
how do you do it? Here's why you do it. But most importantly, like what's happening in the background when you do it, right? Like how is it hitting the subledger and things like that. So I
Mhm.
think my background as being an accountant is just really benefited me in this stage of my career as an implementer as well. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
You, yeah, you must speak the lingo of when you sit down with a CFO. It's very easy to get buy-in from the CFO then because
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yep, I was actually just on site this week and helping someone with a rescue, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, like,
Yeah.
you understood what we were saying," and I'm like, "It's not hard. It's
Yeah,
actually
if
fun."
if you come from that background, it's not hard.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. Well, going into that, you mentioned rescues. You said you've got a reputation for doing rescues.
Mhm.
Um, what patterns do you see in how those situations normally start that need rescuing?
Yeah, so, I'll talk about the most recent one that we're actually in the middle of re-implementing right now. Um, they were implemented up to the point of 2024 balances being in the system, but they were never trained. Subledgers were out of balance, so they never actually got into the system. And we hear that quite frequently, actually. Some of our rescues are, pending go live, or they're already live and things are out of balance, and you get in there and you start doing things. So the first thing that we'll do is we'll do what we call a health check. I'll
Hmm.
get in the system, I'll start looking at setup, I'll start looking at subledgers, are things in balance? And we start really creating this checklist of things that we need to do. And 9 times out of 10, it's a training issue. They don't know what they're doing, they weren't trained, so they're trying to figure it out on their own, and that could, get them astray.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes they go live and the subledgers aren't in balance to the GL, and I'm sitting there, like, just baffled, like,
Oh,
was there a go live checklist? What's a go live checklist? No, there's no go live. Who implemented you? Tell me who implemented you. So sometimes it's just either um training issue, or what I say is, the implementer just maybe they didn't know enough about it yet, and they were trying to do it and be successful, and things just slid because, they don't know what they don't know. So,
yeah. Okay.
mhm.
Yeah. You mentioned the same thing because I obviously in my line of work I speak to a lot of contractors as well that also that get brought in or are part of these kind of projects, and it's often what you just addressed as well. Is the training or the change management? Yes, they're live, but no one's using it or no one knows how to use it. That indeed comes up a lot. Um,
Yeah, and think of it this way, Rory, like, what makes a project successful? It's not that they're live in the system, that's not a gauge of it being successful either, you
yeah,
know? So, like, they think that the project is done, and they go and, run 5, 6 months into it, and they realize, "Oh my gosh, like, we shouldn't have
yeah.
gone live yet, we weren't ready." So,
Just switching the on button doesn't mean you're done. Like,
yeah,
are you meeting your business objectives?
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Um, what's the English word that I'm trying to find here? Going to your GP background.
Mhm.
A lot of companies assume that, or GP companies assume that their current partner is the natural choice to also help them move to Business Central. Why might that assumption be worth questioning?
Ooh. Okay. I'm sorry if anyone gets offended by what I'm about to say, but I'm gonna be honest here.
We like honesty.
If if your GP partner ignores you, you're not getting good support today, why do you think you're gonna get good support on Business Central, right? So that's like red flag number 1. Um, Also, look, this is a perfect time to evaluate partners. I mean, if you go to any meetup groups or any conferences, there's other end users there. Network with them. Ask them, who's your partner? What do you like about them? What do you not like about them? But this is a perfect time for you to evaluate. Um, kind of going into what makes a good part. Sorry, my dog just came in from outside and he just shook. Water went
I saw
everywhere.
I saw something white behind you already. I'm like, is that a polar bear?
It is a polar bear. Um, But what makes a partner great, right? Or good or, whatever. Um, are they going to conferences? Are they skilling up? Are they letting their consultants go to conferences to skill
Yeah,
up? Because there's too many times that I see, you know, bigger partners that they don't bring a lot of consultants to conferences, and then you got to wonder, like, how are they learning? How are they keeping up with the new features?
Yeah.
All the things, right? So, perfect opportunity to kind of re-interview, or if you never interviewed your partner, like interview them and say, what are you doing? What are you doing for the community? Are you speaking? Are you attending conferences? Um, you know,
How,
all
how
the
much do you
things.
know about Business Central? Just because they were good in GP, does are they good in BC? Have they done it enough?
Yeah. Do they have references? Are their consultants certified? There's the MB 800 for functional consultants, and
Yep.
the MB
820.
820 for developers. So, like, I mean, that's a gauge, right? Like, do they know
Yeah.
what they're talking about? Yes or no? And the reference piece, I mean, I put out case studies on my website. Every single one of my clients would be happy to be a reference for me. So ask them, like, hey, do you have a reference? Can I call one of your customers and see if, what you're telling me is actually true?
Yeah. They will only ever give good references though. They won't give the reference of the client where it failed.
Yeah, but you can gather a lot in a conversation with someone, like how did the implementation go? Was it on time? Was it in budget? Like these are all questions you should be asking. The one that I was on site for this week actually had their statement of work right here on my desk from their original partner, and they've already built out double the statement of work, and they're not even live. So
What?
like these are questions that you could ask their current client base if they're willing to let you talk to them. If they're not willing to let you talk to them, red flag, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a huge issue.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and how transparent are they? Like, are they having these touch points? Like one of the things we do, Rory, is we do a monthly newsletter where we're doing social media posts. Like we're interacting with not only our current clients, but also prospects and just sharing knowledge across the board. I mean, I don't need to stop sharing. I love sharing to other end users, and maybe at some point they do call me up, maybe they don't, but I'm also
Hmm.
helping like the greater community by doing that. And I
Yeah.
think that says a lot too about the integrity of the partner you're working with, and not saying that all partners who don't do that aren't great. There definitely are some out there that are really great and they don't need to do that. But those are just the things that I would
That's
recommend looking at.
yeah. No, I get that. Are there questions you wish more prospects would ask you during the selection process?
Hmm. Maybe, maybe. Um, there are times where I will get on a call and, they'll just be like, well, what's your experience? How can you help? Things like that. And they feel pretty comfortable right off, but pretty much right off the bat.
Yeah.
Um, But I think what shocks people sometimes is when I'm like, we have a small team, we're all in house, we're doing it by ourselves. Our subcontractors are overseas, sometimes they don't ask that type of stuff. But I think I've gotten really good at like, hey, giving them that type of information up front now, because it
Hmm.
used to be a shock to people to know that my developer is in Poland. That used to shock them, and
Yeah.
then, or, nowadays, one thing is that you should be asking is, how do you do your development? Are you using AI to do development? Because
Hmm.
now we have
Yeah.
AI, and that's one of the things, when we do development, I always tell the client, "Okay, are you okay with us using AI for this? Or the traditional route is gonna cost you a little bit more, right? Because it's gonna take a little bit more time." So
Yeah.
those are other questions I think that, are things to think
Yeah.
about, I guess.
Yeah. It's not just can you do this BC implementation for me and do you have references? It's
Mhm,
you wanna you it sounds like your approach is you really want to be transparent about how you operate fully,
mhm.
so the client knows exactly what they're getting when they um yeah, when they're gonna work with you.
Yeah, absolutely. One question that just came to mind, Rory, is every end user that is looking to implement any ERP,
Yeah.
do you have experience in my industry? I mean, that's a great question to
Yeah.
ask. If they're production, manufacturing, and they're talking to me, and they don't ask me that, like, they're just gonna assume I know it, right?
Yeah.
And, um, and maybe I don't, So those are just other things too, because that leads into another interesting conversation is if my prospect is in production and I tell them, you know what, I'm not really a production expert, the next question should be, well, who's gonna do the work?
Yeah.
Who's going to help us, things like that. So those are all just the conversations. You don't want to be blindsided. You don't want to sign the paperwork and all of a sudden, I'm such a small firm that if I'm on the call with the prospect, they're working with me when I sell the deal, right? But if you go to some of the bigger CSPs, who's selling the deal is not going to be who's implementing you. So like,
Yeah.
where are those people in the sales process? Where's the functional consultant verifying, the statement of work is good and that they can do the work and things like that. So I think, you know, just thinking about the rescues we've done and some of the pain points that people have had, that right there could have,
Yeah.
answered a lot, honestly.
Yeah. Would
Mhm.
you recommend your clients to always interview who's going to be on the project team?
Absolutely. Why not? I mean, they should know who they're gonna work with, right? You know?
I think so.
And here's the other thing is, like, I'm a pretty good judge of character, and I think a lot of that is just because, in my lifetime, I've moved around a lot, gone to 9 different schools in my life, just K through 12, 9 different schools. There's
Yeah.
another fact that people don't know about me. Um, but I'm a really good read on people, and I can tell if we're going to jive, if we're going to work very well together, or if we're not, right?
Mhm.
Um, but why shouldn't a client be able to ask who's on my team, who's going to be on the team? Can we jump on a call? I want to meet them. I want to talk to them. Um, I think that's a great idea, for a bigger
Yeah.
firm, right? I mean, I'm a little bit unique because I am so small, but I
I
think that is warranted.
I think so too, but I rarely hear about it. I hear what you were describing earlier, that someone sells the project and then
Mhm.
okay, let's seal the deal, and then okay, now let's find the people to put on the project, and the client has, yeah, we'll meet them on day one.
Yeah,
Which I think I would like to I would like to know who I'd be working with for the next 3, 6, 9 months on this
yeah,
implementation.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, Bridge to cloud. You brought that up on a previous call that you and I had. Um, a lot of companies have never heard of it. Could you explain what it is and who qualifies?
Yes. So I have it pulled up here on my other screen, so I'm gonna read it,
Sure.
part of it. I won't read it all. So eligible Dynamics on-prem customers are gonna get a 30% discount when they move to a Business Central SaaS 3-year commitment. Okay, so what this is the Bridge to Cloud 3 promotion that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the one that is for January 1st, 26 through December 31st, 27. So if you're on prem today, think of like SL, AX, GP, and you know that you're going to be going to Dynamics 365 Business Central at some point. This is one way for you to take your yearly maintenance fees. We'll just say it's 5,000, convert that over to Business Central licensing for 3 years. So instead of paying for GP, um, maintenance, you're now paying for licenses for 3 years. You still get the GP support. That's all still covered. You do have to be up to date on your maintenance as well, which is another catch. But it gives you that runway of, hey, we're committing to BC.
Hmm.
You get the licensing at a discount. You get a 30% discount. So sometimes it makes sense to do that if you're ready to do that.
Yeah.
Um, and like I said, like the promotion is January 1st, 26 through December 31st, 27. the enrollment has to be completed in that time frame. So if you miss that window, um, then the promo is over. I don't know if Microsoft will do a Bridge to Cloud 4 promotion based on, the announcement of the end of life of GP is
Yeah.
obviously past 2027. So maybe we'll see another one come up, but it's great. And if you're interested in that, you just go through your partner and they can file the paperwork and do everything needed. So my recommendation, if you're going to do that, is just wait to purchase it at the time your renewal is, because
Yeah.
it's kind of at the same time. Um, but
Okay.
yeah, it's a great program. We have 4 clients on it right now. We have 2 of them on the Bridge to Cloud, the original Bridge to Cloud, so they're already off the 3 years.
Hmm.
But it's pretty seamless, other than
Okay.
just being locked in.
So merging that with our previous question, if if a company's current partner hasn't mentioned Bridge to Cloud, what does that tell them?
Not reading too much into it, but just like the initial gut reaction that I get, it tells me that they're not ready to have the conversation about implementing Business Central yet. So maybe internally they're still skilling up people. Maybe I'm just kind of throwing this out there. Maybe their whole shop has been dedicated to GP for so many years. They don't
Yeah.
have like a resource for BC. So my initial thought is they're not ready. Um, Hopefully they know about it. I mean, Microsoft has been screaming this at the rooftops for years. So hopefully
Yeah.
it's not a case of them not knowing about the promotion, rather just that they don't have the skill set yet to implement it would be my first gut reaction.
Yeah. That's yeah, that's a good point. Hadn't even thought about them not being ready. I thought, oh, maybe if they just don't even know about it, that should be a red flag. But they might know about it and not tell, because to buy themselves some more time to get ready
Mhm.
and then promote it.
Yeah.
Um,
And keep in mind too, like all they're doing is just kicking the can down the road. I mean, the closer we get to this GP deadline of
mhm,
it not being supported anymore, um, the more companies that are running GP are going to be, running to partners trying to get estimates, and they're going to have their deadlines of go live dates. Um, and supply and demand is already starting. We're starting to see that now, even in the BC space, especially in the
yeah,
US. Um, it's becoming quite popular and everybody wants to come on. A majority of our implementations, I would say probably 80% of them in the last couple of years have even been QuickBooks to Business Central.
yeah,
So it's like it's not just GP. We're now looking at NetSuite, QuickBooks. I mean, we took someone off NetSuite recently. So it's like you're now in competition for our services just across the board of
yeah,
other ERP solutions.
yeah. That's why I see the BC projects or the and demand for partners like yourself and talent really surging.
Hmm.
Yeah, surging is going up.
Yeah.
Um, because there's so much potential. There's all the GP people, the GP users that at some point will have to consider to move to BC. You've got Nav, and what you're saying, you got competing products like a NetSuite or a Sage or a QuickBooks.
Hmm.
That like a lot of net new clients, there's just so much potential for BC to really be successful,
Hmm.
and that the market should get really busy.
Yeah.
Um, that's my take, at
Hmm.
least.
Hmm.
For companies currently on GP or another legacy system, weighing their options, what's the real timeline pressure they should understand? And that doesn't necessarily have to link to that bridge to cloud, but yeah, what's the timeline pressure?
I think it's all internal, right? Like they have to figure out internally what's driving them first off to even look at it. Obviously, if they're on GP or NAV, something like that, it's becoming like the security and the Microsoft support and things like that. those are going to be the big pressures, I think. Um, for the QuickBooks clients, for them, the system works. Like they're already in the cloud, right? But for them, they're wanting the ease of, hey, we're already running, on M365 licenses. We're already a Microsoft shop, right? Like
Yeah.
Business Central is so seamless when it comes to Excel, Word, Outlook, and then you have the whole Power Platform, right? So the urgency is there. And what I do find is that the users on QuickBooks or the companies on QuickBooks, I'll close a deal within days. I mean, I'll show them Business Central and they're signing that statement of work within days, right? The GP, NAV, those folks, it is a
But
little bit longer of a process.
what's different? I know GP
I mean,
users love GP and they're really, really used to it. But
yeah, I
what else
mean,
is different?
it's working, right? Like they still have support if they're up to date on maintenance. They still have version updates. There's not yet the real urgency other than, yeah, we can see, the end of the road where Microsoft doesn't support it anymore. So I think for them, and to be honest, like why would there be urgency? Why should, they do have a runway, right?
Yeah.
Um, but that goes back to the point I said, the longer you wait, the harder it is to going to get on someone's schedule because some partners are signing deals, but they're not even starting the projects for 2-3 months out
Yeah.
because, they're already busy and at
Yeah.
capacity already. So those are other things to be asking. But
Could it
but
also be, I'm just reading a little bit between the lines here, but um, the way you're describing it, that the QuickBooks people,
mhm.
they're normally smaller companies or startup, more entrepreneurial, maybe more keen to seize the opportunity, whereas the GP users are normally very, very conservative
Conservative, they have
when it comes to
budgets.
changes.
Uh-huh. It's gotta get approved, it's gotta be budgeted. The small QuickBooks are like, you're talking to the business owner, you're
Yeah.
telling them how much this is gonna cost. They know if they can afford it. So yeah, to your point, that could be one of those issues too, where it's like prolonging the process. Because you're right, I did have actually, it was GP to Business Central. It was about 11 months for the sales
Hmm.
process before they
Oh,
actually
wow.
signed. Previous to that, I had a NAV to BC, and that was about 6 to 8 months as well. A couple on site visits, doing discovery. And that's another thing I'll say that we offer that people love is instead of us just giving you an estimate for, hey, this is how much your implementation is going to cost, why don't you pay for us to come do an on site discovery? Now we're getting that out of the way.
Hmm.
We can then give you a better estimate based on what we know, what we've seen, things like that. And we've had our two largest projects. They both have had us do that, come on site, and it's been very successful. They love having us there and giving feedback right out of the gate, right?
Yeah.
So that's another thing you can think about too is like maybe you're not ready to start the implementation today, like day one, like
Yeah.
can start configuring, but maybe you're ready to start having the discussions about your processes, what it would look like.
Yeah.
And that honestly helps the implementation go better and smoother as well.
Because from the start, both parties have skin in the game.
Hmm.
They're both invested. They will return calls because they've paid for your assessment already, so then they want to get value out of it. So they need to give their input instead of
Hmm.
if it's a free consultation, for example. There's nothing on the line for them.
It's not free. We do charge for it.
Yeah, yeah, that's why.
So they're basically paying for the discovery up front
Yeah,
is really what they're doing, right? Um, so it's not cheap because you're still paying for those hours. You're just doing it up front and then getting like the gap analysis and requirements documents. But it's just another way for like them to see you. Is this
yeah.
gonna work? So we talk about this interviewing process, like can we work together? Things like that. Um, it's just another way to do that in a sense as well, but yeah,
Yeah,
pretty successful so far.
that's good. In your opinion, does the talk about Copilot and AI, does that move the GP users a bit faster, or it's not really making an impact?
It's not making an impact that I personally am seeing,
Okay.
but, uh, I have no GP clients. Like, my business is 100% Business Central, so we're not supporting GP today. I don't know that it is, I guess that'd be a really good question to ask maybe, like, a partner that is more GP focused if it is, but just my initial gut would say probably not yet, you know? Knowing
Yeah.
what I know now about, like, the co-pilots and, the security around it and things like that, um, it's probably conversations that companies are having about Copilot and how to protect their data and keep it in-house instead of, like, going to, like, a ChatGPT and kinda having it be part of their LMM, I think is what people say, but like, their learning model and things like that. Um, so I don't know. I don't think in 2025, not yet in 2026 up to this point, I wouldn't think so, but
Yeah. Okay.
Microsoft is pushing Copilot more, so
Oh yeah.
maybe it'll
Yeah,
be
yeah. You can't go around it anymore. Everything's
yeah.
AI and Copilot right now. Well, I think there were great insights here. Um, really helpful to know what to look out for if your current partner, GP partner, isn't doing certain things or isn't talking to you about Bridge the Cloud, or the type of questions or criteria that you should have when assessing a partner. I think those are very valuable. I think it's very easy to be comfortable and just stick with the partner that you have, and loyalty is part of that. And there's nothing wrong with loyalty, but you got to do what's best for your business as well. And there might be a more suitable partner out there for you.
Mhm.
And I think you touched on some key criteria that are very valuable. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. Um, if anyone, I know you're in the Microsoft Dynamics ecosystem. You're famous. People can easily find you. Um, if they want to see you live, like where will you be this year? What events?
Ooh. So April 9th, we have the Rocky Mountain Doug Dynamics Con Regional in Denver. So if you're in Denver, you need to come. We also have a Dynamics Con conference coming up in May. That's in Las Vegas. We have Directions North America in April. That's partner event. And then the
Hmm.
other end user event is coming up in October. Nashville is Community Summit. And if you're
Yeah,
listening and you're interested in an academy class, Sean Dorward and I are doing a 2-day how to implement BC. So it's a very low cost to kind of go and see what it would be like to implement BC. So I'll just kind of plug that there as
I'm
well because I think
I'm
that's
assuming that will be a pre-event thing, like on a Saturday, Sunday.
yeah, that's exactly what it is. Saturday, Sunday for that class. Yep.
Okay, that's good to know. And you've just given me a deadline to get this video out online as well. Like, what did you say? April
April
9th.
9th.
Okay,
Yep.
okay, you got a few more to go as well.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Kristen. I like how natural and authentic you are, um, and honest. I love that. I love people being honest, and yeah, you might not say things that everyone will embrace, but that's great.
Thank you,
I like
Rory.
that. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your insights and your experience.
Anytime. Happy to be here, and I'm happy to be an open book. If anyone's listening and you have some questions and you don't want to feel pressured, just reach out.
Yeah, what is your email address for anyone that does want to reach out?
Ooh, let's see. Do I want to put my
You,
email address out
you,
there? I'm gonna say contact me on LinkedIn
me on
first.
LinkedIn. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
you've got the name in the screen, so
Yep.
look her up on
Yep.
LinkedIn. All right.
Perfect.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks for watching another episode of Dynamics Compass. I started doing the podcast because in my work as a recruiter, I was speaking to all these Dynamics decision makers that had the same kind of questions. So I figured, well, I have a big network of Microsoft Dynamics experts. Why don't I just approach them, interview them, record it, and make all the answers freely available? So if there's a question that you really want answered that is Dynamics related, let me know. Find me on LinkedIn or write to me on rory@thegoodtalent.co, and I'll find the expert, I'll interview them, and make it freely available so you're informed and you can keep progressing your Microsoft Dynamics journey. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great day. Bye.